We're going to answer this question before us, and it's a bit of a tricky one, so we'll take our time with it and we'll see how we go. So it's VCAA 2020, Paper 1, Question 9. 5 competitors, Andy, Bree, Cleo, Della, and Eddie, participate in a darts tournament. Each competitor plays each of the other competitors once only, and each match results in a winner and a loser. The matrix below shows the results of this darts tournament. There are still 2 matches that need to be played. So if we look over here, we can see that A obviously didn't play against itself, so that's why we put a 0 there. We don't yet know whether or not A has beaten B. That is the game that has yet to take place. It lost against C, it won against D, it lost against E. We don't know the result of the B-A match. So this match and this match, these 2 blank boxes represent the fact that, and we'll write this down, still to play is A versus B. And then we also have here, D has not yet played C. So that means we don't know the result of CD here. Now, let's just think for a second. Actually, let me write this down. So we don't know yet the answer, who beat CD. We don't know the result there. If we think about this for a second, and we think about how we could put in our wins, well, either B could win, which means A could lose, or vice versa. B could win, and that means A loses. So you have to consider, A could win, that means B loses, or B wins, that means A loses. And then, the same thing goes for here. Either there's a 1 there or a 0 there. You can't have like a 1 there, because that means, B beat C and C beat D. That doesn't make any sense. One has to lose. Okay, let's keep reading here. It says, a 1 in the matrix shows the competitor named in that row defeated the competitor named in that column. For example, the 1 in row 2 and column 3 shows that Bree defeated Cleo. A ... in the matrix shows that the competitor named in that row has not yet played the competitor named in that column. The winner of the darts competition is the competitor with the highest sum of their 1-step and 2-step dominances. Okay, so what we're going to have to do now to kind of figure this out is consider the total dominance of it. So we're going to have to figure out the 1-step and 2-step dominance here. All right, let's read the last part here. Which player, by winning their remaining match, will ensure they're ranked first by the sum of their 1- and 2-step dominances? So by winning their match, which player can kind of ensure that they're definitely going to win here? So that's what we need to consider. What are we going to do? Well, let's just write down our thinking here. What we're going to have to do here is a bit of trial and error. Trial and error. We're going to have to consider the different combos of winning, trial and error, to find, and what we want to find is, my total dominance is going to be my 1-step plus 2-step dominances. And we need to figure out, who definitely is going to win if, they win their final match. Okay, so let's consider if, and I'm going to just write down the winners here. Let's consider if A wins both of their matches, will they definitely win? So that means we need to consider what happens if A wins and C wins, and what happens if A wins and D wins. In both of these situations, if A wins, then we know that they can ensure the win. And we have to consider, if B wins and C wins, and if B wins and D wins, well, if B can win in both of these scenarios in which both C and D win, then that means they're the overall winner. So that's what we need to consider. We need to put in these 4 options here. And let me just kind of be clear here. I'm naming the winner here. So this is saying, A wins, C wins, A wins, D wins. These are the 4 different ways this could happen. These are all my winners here. All right, so I think the worst thing you could do is kind of just blindly jump into this. Because you're just going to spend a long time in your CAS if you can't just blindly jump in. There is kind of a common sense way to begin this question as to, which of these trial and errors you begin with. And that is by coming up here and saying, all right, who is winning at the moment based on their 1-step dominance? So based on the 1-step dominance, who's winning here? Well, A has only won 1 match against D. B has won 2 matches against C and D. C has won 2 matches against A and E. D has only won 1 match, and E has won 2 matches. So as you can see here, based on their 1-step dominance, E, C, and B are all on 2 wins. Then we would say, all right, well, what would therefore happen if B won, meaning A lost, and C won, which means that D lost? Well, now both of these B's and C's would be drawn on 3. So that means they would both have 3 one-step dominances. So in this scenario, who would win? And this is, kind of the crux of it. If we have a draw in our one-step dominances, we can then consider our 2-step dominances to figure out who will be the overall winner. So this is the best way to begin. So if we would just kind of write this out, we're beginning by considering, 1, 0, 0, 1. That's what we're considering. Because then after a while, you'd have to consider all of them. You'd have to consider, what if B won, but then, D won? And that's this one over here. So BC we're starting with, but then you'd have to consider BD. And then you'd have to go, all right, what if A1 and C1? So that would be 1, 0. And then so on to the next one. You'd have to consider all these different options. But do you kind of see how this is the most commonsensical way to start instead of just like blindly launching into it? All right. You'd put in this matrix that we've just created. So 1, 0, 0, 1. I just copied and pasted it for before. Remember, the way that you copy and paste is you take it, you go Control C. And now what I want to do is I want to go plus, then I can go Control V, and then I can square it. And that is my total dominance now. I'm going to have to now add up each of the rows, just as I did over here, to figure out who's going to be totally dominant. A cheat way that you could do this is you could times it by a summing matrix. And remember, to do this, what you want to do is you want to post multiply by a column matrix to add the rows. And you're going to put a 1 in each of the elements. And as you can see here, in this scenario, the person that wins is Bree with 9. So when B and C both win, the person that can kind of ensure the win is going to be Bree. So I can come over here and I can say that the person that wins here, and I'll do this in a different color. Let's do this. The overall winner is going to be Bree. And now if you're a betting person, you could say, well, what happens if B and D wins? Who will kind of definitely win here? Now, you'd have to test this out. You'd have to say, all right, who would have to test it out to see what would happen? But can you kind of see that it's going to be B? Because we know that D is only one-step solution. Now, there is a scenario where D could still win just based on like getting a really great 2-step solution here. But hopefully you can kind of see that, B is most likely going to be my answer here just based on our logic. But let's now test it out. So let's come to BD here. So what I'm going to do is I'll come back to the top. I'll just grab this one. And now I'm going to say, all right, B wins. So I'll leave this one here. But now I want to say that D wins. So that means this has to become a 1 and this has to become a 0. And then I want to take this. I want to take that. I want to square it. I want to do that. And then I want to multiply it by, and then I'll just grab my summing matrix. We can see that in this scenario, B also wins. And that kind of makes sense. Hopefully you can see that at this time, you could kind of take an educated guess that B is going to be our winner. Hopefully you can see that. Because now we would have to test A, C and AD and see if A could kind of guarantee the win here. But hopefully you can see that if we were to do it, so let's do it. Because you do have to test it, because it is kind of mathematically possible that through a 2-step solution, A could somehow kind of get the win, even though it's only on one-step solution and people are on 2. But still, it could still mathematically, in a situation, be possible. So now I'm making A the winner, and let's make C the winner, and C is already the winner here. And now I want to add that with this, square it, that, take that down, multiply it by my summing matrix. All right, so in this scenario, in which I have A and C, C can guarantee the win. C can guarantee the win with 8 wins here, with 8 wins. So in this scenario where A and C play, C guarantees the win, C wins. But we know that, even if C wins their other match against B, well, B wins overall. So C can't guarantee the win because, even though it beats A, well, if B wins, then it loses. And this also means that we don't even have to consider this, do we? We don't have to consider this because A can't guarantee the win by winning both of its matches. So by winning both the matches, can it ensure the win? Well, A can't ensure the win because it couldn't beat A here. We could also come over here and And yeah, and that's how we could, so wait, scratch that. We can just kind of get rid of that because it can't ensure the win. B is definitely going to be our winner there. Now, I think I reckon that's a pretty high order question there and takes a bit of thinking. Hopefully it makes sense. Just because it's so long, like how long has this video been going? I've been talking for 10 minutes. I've also included here, and if you don't have access to this link here, you can just go on YouTube and you can search up the Maths Guru 2020 Unit 3 Paper 1 solution. And it's the guy who makes the Adrolo videos, and he talks through this solution. So you can go there and have a look there. I think I provide a better explanation, but you can be the judge. And as you can also see, 63% of people got this correct. That's a pretty high percent of people getting it correct. I believe that the way that they got it correct is just by thinking through what I did at the very beginning and said, you know, B and C are both on 2 wins. Let's give them both one more win. In this scenario, B wins on the 2-step dominance, and didn't actually go through each trial and error and just saying, you know, it's most likely that B is going to win here based on that logic. Even though, you know, kind of in some situation, it might be mathematically possible for someone to win on a 2-step solution, even though they haven't won on the 1-step solution there. This still, I believe, is the most commonsensical way to approach this question. Bit of a tricky one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll see you later.